Dominique Dunne became a breakout star in Steven Spielberg's film Poltergeist with her iconic line. She was young, beautiful, a Hollywood star who first made her mark on hit TV shows like Hill Street Blues.
I was gonna hit him!
A life full of promise until her ex-boyfriend killed her.
You know, she was so young and so sweet.
Dominique Dunne was only 22 when John Sweeney choked the life out of her.
He just wanted to snuff her out, and he accomplished it.
For 5 days, we watched our daughter die in Cedars-Sinai Hospital.
Sweeney was tried for murder, but the jury wasn't buying it. They convicted him of manslaughter.
Manslaughter, like it was an automobile accident gone wrong.
I had an offer from a big Hollywood star. He said, listen, I know people. We can have him taken care of in jail.
What the jury didn't know, he had attacked another woman before Dominique. And for the first time, she's speaking out publicly.
He broke my arm. He broke my nose. He pushed me down the stairs of my apartment. That's when I went to the hospital once, too. And I had a collapsed lung.
Would she have made a difference to you?
Yes, a huge difference. It would have made all the difference in the world.
He served 3.5 years, but clearly didn't learn his lesson because he brutalized another girlfriend. So what went wrong?
John, I'm with TMZ. We're doing a documentary, and we'd like to speak to you.
TMZ investigates killing a movie star. Grave injustice.
You've been such a good friend to me.
Dominique Dunne was on a rocket ship to superstardom. She quickly landed TV role after TV role and ended up in a movie embraced by generations. He was a top chef at Ma Maison, the hottest restaurant in LA.
The actors start to come, the directors, the producers, models. I mean, it was unbelievable. If you want to have the phone number of Ma Maison, it was enlisted.
Dominique Dunne and John Sweeney. When the 21-year-old actress began dating the 25-year-old Wolfgang Puck protege back in 1981, it got her showbiz friends buzzing, but not in a good way.
It's never happened to me before, and it hasn't happened since, that I've shaken somebody's hand and felt sort of sick.
11 months after they began their romance, she was dead, the life choked out of her, and her killer immediately came clean.
Sweeney came out to him and said, I've just killed my girlfriend.
John Sweeney stood trial for allegedly murdering Dominique, but the trial went haywire, and virtually no one in that courtroom believed justice was served.
We were very distressed with the verdict.
In this case, given the ample evidence before this jury, I would have unhesitatingly returned a verdict of murder in the second degree.
If it were up to me, Mr. Sweeney would spend the rest of his life in jail.
We were all kind of like, what the?
I covered this case as a young reporter back in '83, and the gross injustices I saw have stayed with me for 40 years. It is one of the biggest miscarriages of justice I've seen in my entire career, both as a lawyer and a journalist. And when you hear what went down, I think you'll be outraged too. Dominique's brother, Griffin Dunne, an actor...
Sorry to be upsetting you, David, but I had to come.
...and producer, still has vivid memories of his little sister.
She had a very strong will, a very vibrant personality, a great sense of humor. You know, was very loved by her friends. Just the joy of light of our eyes from You know, the moment she was born, she had enormous talent as an actress. She was so devoted to my parents.
Dominique was just this cute little sister to a friend of mine. She was super pretty little girl, and she grew up to be beautiful. Was a super responsible and kind human being. And something that she's been doing since she was a little kid was adopting animals. It was always a dog that was missing a leg or looked like it had some sort of horrible disease.
John Sweeney started at the bottom at Ma Maison, and he caught the eye of the hottest chef in America, Wolfgang Puck, the head chef who had everyone talking.
John Sweeney started, I think, as a cook, and Wolfgang gave him always a little more responsibility, you know, until he became one of the chefs. He was always a nice guy. Before the service, he would come out from the kitchen and talk to us. We said jokes, all that. He was very friendly.
John rose through the ranks, and when Wolfgang left in 1981, Sweeney became head chef.
There wasn't any kind of soulfulness or charm or humor or anything. He was antisocial.
Dominique was the opposite, happy, social, and kind.
Dominique had this sense of the world that everybody was equal, that you had to treat everybody gently and kindly. If she was working on a show, she was friends with the driver as well as the stars.
They moved in together within months of meeting, and the relationship deteriorated quickly.
John had these anger fits. He would become violent, and apparently on more than just one occasion, he'd spent apparently a lot of time yelling at her and criticizing her for everything she did. He had to know where she was going. He became an obsessed lunatic.
He was jealous of everything. If she was doing a TV movie with Sam Elliott, I remember, and he was losing his mind because she was going to be having an affair with Sam Elliott.
Then, 5 weeks before her death, Sweeney gave Dominique an horrific preview of what was to come.
A friend of hers with his girlfriend came for a visit. Brian Cook and his girlfriend, Denise Danaher, they actually slept on the couch. They heard Miss Dunne yelling and screaming. He went into their bedroom. Miss Dunne said that Sweeney had choked her, and she was afraid of him. She climbed through a bathroom window to get to her car. Mr. Sweeney ran out, jumped on the hood of the car, and Dominique drove him down a block with him on the hood of the car, where she finally let him off. Mr. Cook said that he observed choke marks on her throat.
She went to her mother's. You can imagine her mother was incredibly distraught. Dominique eventually called him and said, look, you have to move out. We're done.
Turns out there were other incidents of violence. Sweeney would bang Dominique's head on the floor. He would strike her. But the choking was the final straw, or so she thought.
They had broken up, and he wanted to go back to her. And he was thinking that she was going to go back, but she told him to call her 30 days later. On October 30th, he sent her a facial mask that he'd made out of candy of her, and it sent it to her house. She then called the restaurant, and during that conversation, she told him that, no, she was not going to go back to him.
You could see his face, hungry face, really, and yelling. He hung up the phone and just leave the restaurant. I never saw him like that. Like my eyes, my jaws. Something is really, really bad.
He left the restaurant and walked 2 miles to her house. He knocked on the front door. Mr. Packer was there. He and Dominique were rehearsing lines for the TV series V.
There was a knock at the door, and she went to the door and she said, you know, who is it? And the voice was, it's me, it's John. And she said, you gotta go. You definitely have to go. And he said, no, I just need to talk to you. And look, just come outside for a second. And then, of course, that literally was the fatal mistake of her opening the door. He yelled at her for about a minute and then strangled her to death.
Strangled for somewhere between 4 and 6 minutes. The police were called, and Sweeney came clean. The police came out, and John Sweeney said what to the officer?
That he had just killed his girlfriend.
John Sweeney thought he had killed his former girlfriend, Dominique Dunne. Turns out she was not dead. For 5 days, she lingered on life support at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in LA, as her family and close friends stood vigil by her bedside.
When I looked at her there, she was just breathing through the tube. Her sweet, loving, beautiful little face, because she was always full of life and full of juice and full of laughter. And, you know, it was just not there.
The doctors had said she's brain dead. They would let me go in and hold her hand for a half hour, and then you know, and then Griffin would go in, and you know, it was just you know, I'm sorry, it was just the worst. It was just to see that, you know, she was so young and so sweet. And, you know, there's nothing you can do. You know, there's nothing.
She's swinging into the right of preliminary hearing in 10 court days from today.
Meanwhile, John Sweeney was in custody, and he was filled with sadness for himself.
He was very calm, worried about himself. He said, what's going to happen to me? You know, I really didn't mean to kill her. You think I'll go to prison?
5 days after John Sweeney choked the life out of her, Dominique Dunne was pronounced dead.
Actress Dominique Dunne died today at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. The actress, who had made her movie debut in Poltergeist, had been found unconscious in the driveway of her West Hollywood home on Saturday, the apparent victim of a choking attack.
It's no surprise Dominique's funeral was charged with emotion. Her dad, Dominic, had been an extremely successful producer with movies like Boys in the Band, and huge stars came out to support him and the family. Jimmy Stewart, Robert Wagner, Loretta Young, Carrie Fisher were among the 600 mourners. The wheels of justice began to grind. Sweeney was charged with first-degree murder. The trial was held in 1983 by the beach at the courthouse in Santa Monica.
Andy, bring her back, Andy. Andy, got two cameras you're blocking.
That was kind of the beginning of that sort of big media. So high profile. The girl, the restaurant, the family. It just had all of those parts to it.
And now receiving evidence, the probation report.
That's Judge Burton Katz. He'll play a pivotal role in the trial.
The judge, he thought he was a celebrity being on the bench during that trial.
The first day of the trial, the judge said, I want to see the People magazine photographer in my chambers. And I thought, okay, we know, okay, we're not to shoot the jury. And the judge said, you know, I have these glasses that have glare in them. So when you photograph me, it's hard to see my eyes, but I can send my bailiff here home. I have these glasses. I don't know, they had special lenses or there were no lenses or something. And I thought, that's why we're here in his chambers, because he has something important to say. And I was just shocked.
The lawyers were impressive. Deputy District Attorney Stephen Barshop was effective.
You may be heard.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right. There is a presumption, as Your Honor knows.
Michael Adelson, an LA County public defender, proved more than effective to the dismay of Dominique's friends.
He would do anything. Let's be honest. He kind of got him off. Like, I guess that makes him a great lawyer in a disgusting way.
Dominique's family and friends populated the gallery, glaring at Sweeney so he didn't have a neutral place to look. That may have backfired.
Every day, the Dunne family and Dominique's mother was in a wheelchair, but The rest of the family would sit in the front row, leaning on the rail and just daggers in their eyes. The whole time staring at Sweeney, staring him down. It seemed a bit over the top. And I think at the time that had some effect on me.
John Sweeney and his lawyer were clearly aware presentation matters. So Sweeney sat at the defendant's table every day of the trial, clutching a Bible.
He walked in with that little choir boy, act, holding a Bible of all things. I thought that the jury was going to get up and start laughing.
But guess what?
Did that Bible make a difference to you?
Probably a little bit, although clearly it was a show. He was trying to present a certain demeanor, and I think it was done well.
Yeah, he cried a lot and looked sad all the time. Yeah, that may have played a part in our verdict, being that he was remorseful, and maybe this just was a one-off thing that happened to him. We all tend to go crazy once or twice in our lives.
In his opening statement, Barshop made a powerful case for first-degree murder, that this was not a crime of passion, but a cold, calculated killing. And he did it by standing in front of the jury in silence for the time it took John Sweeney to squeeze the life out of Dominique.
She was silent for 4 minutes, and everyone just sat there for 4 minutes in the courtroom and waited until the 4 minutes was up. He also just said it was up close and personal.
With that kind of evidence, what could possibly go wrong for the prosecution? Well, a lot. Dominique Dunne's killer was on trial for murder. He admitted he killed her. The trial was really about punishment. Manslaughter, which carries a maximum 6 years in prison, or murder, which could carry a life sentence.
He had 35 minutes to walk 2 miles. He had 35 minutes to understand he was about to murder somebody. There's no doubt in my mind that he knew that he was going to kill her. His history was, I like to beat up women, particularly women that are small and easy to kill and easy to hospitalize. And this was what his real goal was.
There was a perception by some in the courtroom that the judge was kinder to Sweeney than he was the Dunne family.
He told them, even though Mrs. Dunne was in a wheelchair, that if you cry or whisper among yourselves or make any kind of problems, I will have the whole family moved from the courthouse.
He's saying, I know how hard this is for you, Mr. Sweeney. Never a word did he show towards us of sympathy of any kind.
Judge Katz clearly loathed our district attorney, Stephen Barshop.
Dominique's friends and family felt the judge was Team Sweeney all the way.
It felt like a conspiracy to give him as much leeway as possible and make Dominique seem like she was a alcoholic slut. But that is the classic blame the victim. She didn't drink. She didn't have sex with lots of guys. It shouldn't be allowed.
The key to the defense was proving this was a crime of passion. So Sweeney's lawyer, Michael Adelson, repeatedly referred to his client as an ordinarily reasonable person who got caught up in a moment of passion. He argued this wasn't a crime, it was a tragedy.
I lost count of how many times he described Sweeney to the jury as an ordinarily reasonable man. We had heard 13 instances of violence that John Sweeney had committed, and yet it was allowed for him to say that Sweeney was an ordinarily reasonable man. I mean, it made you want to stand up and cry out in the courtroom.
Doesn't this show an MO on the part of Mr. Sweeney? No, when he's angry at a girlfriend, he tends to attack.
The jury knew of his violent nature.
We heard it as described as a crime of passion, like he had his feelings hurt and he felt rejected, so he lashed out in the only way he knew how in this sudden moment, like it was an impulsive act. So we knew he was never an ordinary person. It was very hard to hear.
This was a person who was definitely going to make sure that no one was going to ever get her. He just wanted to snuff her out. And he accomplished it. No one ever, ever would ever have her again. Ugh.
There were two blows that proved devastating to the prosecution. The first, as in first-degree murder, well, the judge took it off the table. He ruled there was no evidence of premeditation. The cop who interviewed Sweeney the night he choked Dominique could not believe what he was hearing.
He just said he was angry because she was not going to go back to him. Didn't say it was a fit of rage. He did say he lost his cool. If you get angry, walk 2 miles to somebody's house, call him outside, and then choke him to death, I don't know what else could be than first-degree murder.
Judge Katz did allow the jury to hear Sweeney choked Dominique 5 weeks before he killed her. But there were other incidents Katz would not let the jury hear. When Sweeney beat Dominique, threw her against the wall, hit her head on the floor, pulled out her hair. The jury heard none of it. But the blow that may have sunk the prosecution's case for even second-degree murder was a monumental ruling by the judge. Turns out there was another woman with a story that would have almost certainly landed John Sweeney in prison for a long, long time. John Sweeney testified when he choked Dominique Dunne to death. He did not do it out of malice. He did it out of blind, uncontrollable rage. His lawyer argued that Sweeney was an ordinarily reasonable person who had a horrible night. But this woman blows that argument to smithereens. Her name is Lillian Pierce. She was 30 when she began dating Sweeney in the late 70s. Her story is harrowing. She says Sweeney beat her at least 10 times, slapping her, punching her, breaking her nose, collapsing her lung, and puncturing her eardrum, sending her to the hospital 2 times. She finally left him, and around a year later, Sweeney met Dominique. Lillian Pierce testified outside the presence of the jury, so Judge Katz could determine if jurors should hear her story. In the end, Judge Katz ruled her testimony was too prejudicial to Sweeney, so jurors never heard from her.
It's like, yeah, it's prejudicial. It shows that he's got a history of beating up women. What? That was one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life.
So there were more than a dozen incidents of violence that jurors never heard. They didn't hear from Lillian Pierce. They never heard about the multiple times Sweeney beat Dominique, other than the one time he choked her, 5 weeks before he completed the job.
I've had the opportunity to read and consider these materials. I have, Your Honor.
Jurors got 112 pages of confusing instructions and retreated to the jury room, where they spent 8 agonizing days deciding whether Sweeney was guilty of manslaughter or second-degree murder.
Second-degree murder. So I remember thinking, I don't think there's enough information for them to make that decision.
Turns out he was right. Jurors struggled with the key point. They didn't understand what a crime of passion was. They went to the judge 4 times, asking him to clarify, but the judge wouldn't do it. In the end, the jury voted for manslaughter and misdemeanor assault for the non-fatal choking.
My reaction was obviously anger. I would say shock, except there was a sort of inevitableness about the outcome. We were just devastated.
Almost everybody in that courtroom took like a deep breath all at once. So it was like this collective, it's the opposite of a gasp. I was really angry with the jury, even though I understood what the information they were working with. So I think in my head, I thought, well, he's only gonna get 10 years.
Not even close. Sweeney was sentenced to the maximum, 6.5 years in prison.
John Sweeney's sentence hearing was emotion-packed. The ex-Mont-Maison chef rarely raised his head from his hands.
Cameras were only allowed during sentencing, not during the trial. During sentencing, Sweeney's mother testified if her son was violent, it was because he learned it from his abusive father.
He beat me up and broke my jaw in 2 places and my coccyx bone. So I went and stayed with my daughter.
Dominique's parents also testified that even the maximum sentence was wildly inadequate.
For 5 days, we watched our daughter and the boy's sisters die in Cedars-Sinai Hospital.
And I therefore beg you, Judge Katz, to give the maximum possible sentence to John Sweeney, which is little enough for what he has done.
There was severe criticism of the verdict by the media and the public. Demonstrators protested outside the courthouse.
Stop violence against women. Stop violence against women.
Many blamed Judge Katz. And then, during sentencing, Katz stunned everyone by agreeing the verdict was an outrage, but he blamed it on the jury.
He continued to squeeze the life out of her. And finally, we know from the coroner that at least a minimum of 3 minutes, and probably in the realm of 4 to 6, where she suffered oxygen deprivation and obviously brain death as we know it. That is what's happened, and that is malice. And if that isn't malice, then I don't know what malice is.
For him to come out the following week and blame the jury, I thought was very much out of line.
I thought that was a cheap shot. Maybe he was deflecting from the criticism that he got from the family, Dominique Dunne's family, and some of the press, I think, had criticized him.
Mrs. Dunne, of all the players, who do you blame most for the outcome of the case?
I would say Judge Katz, quite frankly.
Back in 1983, after the sentencing, I interviewed Judge Katz.
Are you not, by your silence, telling the jury you're just going to have to do the best you can, maybe flip a coin and figure out whether he's guilty or innocent?
Well, no, we try and respond. In other words, we may redirect them back to a portion of the instruction.
But 4 times they came to you and said they didn't understand it, and 4 times you simply said, I can't answer that question. Were you not saying to them, at least at the 4th time, I'm not going to help you out. If you don't understand it, that's your business. Just come to a judgment?
No, I don't think I was saying that. I was trying to get them to read all of the instructions as a whole.
And what about blocking Lillian Pierce from testifying about the brutality she suffered at the hands of John Sweeney?
I have no doubt in my own mind that if the Lillian Pierce testimony would have come in, that they probably would have convicted him of second-degree murder, but that wouldn't have been right. One should not be tried because he's a bad person. He should be convicted on the merits of the evidence.
Judge Katz was clearly correct. Lillian Pierce would have sunk Sweeney. She has never spoken publicly until now, and her story is horrifying. John Sweeney was convicted of manslaughter, not murder, for choking the life out of his former girlfriend, actress Dominique Dunne. He was sentenced to 6.5 years, but served only 3.5.
This was clearly a case of murder.
It was called manslaughter, like it was an automobile accident gone wrong. It really should have been first-degree murder because of all the thought and intention that goes into strangling someone.
Judge Burton Katz would not allow the jury to hear from Sweeney's prior girlfriend, Lillian Pierce, who says he repeatedly brutalized her during their 2-year relationship. Lillian Pierce has never spoken publicly about her relationship with Sweeney until now.
He was stronger than I was. He would hold me down, or I was standing up and he would hold me that I couldn't move. And he broke my arm. He broke my nose. He pushed me down the stairs of my apartment. That's when I went to the hospital once, too. And I had a collapsed lung. He loved to break my arm, break my nose, you know, beat my chest. It was kind of routinely towards the end.
Lillian Pierce made it clear this was Sweeney's thing. When he was pissed, he attacked.
I think it was just general rage that he took out on me.
When he beat you, do you believe it was out of passion or just blind anger?
I think it was just blind anger about the way his life was going. Instead of beating a pillow, I was there.
The whole case hinged on whether the jury believed John Sweeney acted out of this uncontrollable, momentary passion, or whether he was wired to lash out at the woman he was with when he got angry. Which is it?
I would say wired. He was wired. He was a keg waiting to explode.
We showed 2 jurors video of my interview with Lillian Pierce. And all these years later, it hit them hard.
He would hold me down, or I was standing up and he would hold me that I couldn't move. At one time he broke my arm, he broke my nose, he pushed me down the stairs of my apartment. That's when I went to the hospital once too.
That was very difficult to watch. I'm a little choked up, more than a little choked up to see her and to hear what she went through. It's just horrifying. I knew nothing about what Lillian Pierce said at that time, or until right now. I was gobsmacked. It was, oh my God. I knew we got it wrong.
Would she have made a difference to you?
Yes, a huge difference. It would have made all the difference in the world.
One time he broke my arm, he broke my nose, he pushed me down the stairs of my apartment, and I had a collapsed lung at that time because of that.
Makes me more sad.
How much of a difference would that have made?
It would have made a huge difference if we had heard this, and we would have been out of there in a few hours. It would have been guilty of at least second-degree, if not first-degree murder.
I think it would have been a very quick convict him of second-degree murder. No question in my mind.
Was justice done for Dominique Dunne?
No. Absolutely not.
Based on what John Sweeney did to you, do you feel what he eventually did to Dominique was inevitable?
Yes. Yes. One wrong move, one wrong word. I'm sure he hit her way before because she broke up with him, is what probably caused this.
I think that if we had the wherewithal to look, we would definitely find other women that we don't know about that came before and maybe after her.
Well, we found another woman. A woman who had a baby with John Sweeney and then ran for her life. John Sweeney served his time, 3.5 years for killing his former girlfriend, actress Dominique Dunne. He started a new life working as a chef in Santa Monica, California. Back in 1983, after the sentencing, I asked Judge Katz if he was concerned that Sweeney might do it again.
Do you think that Mr. Sweeney will pose a danger to society once he's released?
Well, I can't predict future behavior, but I do have a feeling that at this time I wouldn't be comfortable with him in society.
Sweeney's lawyer, Michael Adelson, was cautiously optimistic.
If he gets out in 2.5 years, do you think he's safe to society?
I think that John will be safe if, during the course of his incarceration, he gets the therapy that he needs. John has basically a very good set of values, but he has within him this uncontrollable rage that needs to be worked upon.
Apparently, whatever work Sweeney did on himself, it wasn't enough. We found a 2000 case in Northern California, 18 years after he killed Dominique. A woman got a restraining order against Sweeney, even went to police. She is too scared to appear on camera, but she told me Sweeney brutalized her, dragged her through a hotel lobby by her ponytail, shoved her head into a bathtub, and on another occasion, pushed her against a wall and put his hands on her collarbone near her throat. She escaped with their infant child and has not seen him since. Sweeney was never charged with a crime.
Wow, that is surprising. You would think that he would have learned a lesson from the Dominique Dunne trial.
It's definitely upsetting. It's not surprising in the least. I'm sure he carries that crazy rage in him every day.
You know, you, Harvey, uncovered what we suspected, that he has had incidents of domestic violence since. That's what comes as no surprise to me. This is a dangerous guy.
He never was cured. He was never reasonable. He was an animal in his rage. I'm shocked about this.
Golly, he's still out there doing it, huh? He's still out choking women.
Dominique Dunne's family and friends had a difficult time moving on.
You do compartmentalize, but you never forget. It colors your life. It colors everything that you look at. My father was a great advocate for victims' rights. Everything he wrote for Vanity Fair was empathetic toward either the woman who had been raped or killed or any of the victims in all of the trials that he covered.
We couldn't do anything except cry silently, get together and talk about her, and maybe watch her, a TV show that she was on, and, remember funny stories.
They decided if the justice system didn't work for them, they would create their own system of justice, which was to follow Sweeney wherever he went and let people know he killed Dominique Dunne.
He went to work for a place in Santa Monica as a chef. I went to the restaurant and I said, "Hey, is John Sweeney here today? He just got out of jail for murdering a little girl."
We organized a picket. We stood in front of the restaurant and we had signs that said the food that you were about to eat was prepared by a man who strangled a young girl. He was quickly fired.
And then we followed him to Seattle. We called the places that he got a job in, got him fired from a good 7 places.
My father hired a private detective, found out he changed his name so no one would know who he was. A father whose daughter was dating him under his fake name, which is John Mora, he would contact Dad through Vanity Fair and say, I believe that's the same guy. Dad would tell me, and we would both speak to the daughter, and we'd end that relationship.
That anger endured with the same intensity it had way back at Dominique's funeral, where, by the way, revenge became a topic.
I had an offer from a big Hollywood star. I can't say his name. It's somebody we all know very well. He said, "Listen, I know people. We can have him taken care of in jail. You just have to give me the word." And I knew he knew people. He was that kind of guy. And I said, "You mean like mafia?" He goes, And I go, "I don't think that's something that the family would want. It's not gonna bring her back."
Sweeney eventually landed a job as the general manager at a retirement community in Northern California. And that's where he works today.
Hello, welcome back. How was the caviar? Happy Mother's Day one more time.
In 2020, he hosted a Christmas celebration for residents.
Hello, everyone. Happy holidays. And now we're reading from the book of John, Mara.
We found Sweeney at his home, but he was in no mood to talk.
John, I'm with TMZ. We're doing a documentary, and we'd like to speak to you. I'd like to give you an opportunity to give us your side of the story. Make sure that... John, we'd like to speak to you.
Griffin Dunne has made it his mission to put a spotlight on domestic violence and the way victims are treated in the legal system.
Blaming the victim in the courtroom, that is still going on. It has kept women from speaking out. I think it all came to a head with the Me Too movement, but it came about because of this constant blaming of women for being raped and harmed and murdered. It's changed the way I see everything.
The Dunne family helped change domestic violence laws in California, beefing up sentencing and other laws. Dominique's dad, Dominique, was a dear friend of mine, but I never met her. Still, this case has stayed with me for 4 decades as a warning. The justice system is only as good as its people.